So what if I told you there's actually 5 useful hacks or tips that I think every home buyer should know? So if you're interested in learning about that, stick around because I'm going to cover 5 useful hacks that I think every home buyer should be thinking about or using as they are going by with their home buying process. So with that, I'm going to cover 5 of them. And then the last one, I don't think a lot of people even have ever really considered it. I don't see that coming across a lot with my home buyers until I present it to them. So stick around to all the way to the end for the last one, okay? It's gonna save you quite a decent amount of money. So the first one on the first tip or hack is going to be seller credit. I don't think a lot of people know that you can actually negotiate with the seller for some seller credit. Typically how it works is what I see is they go in with either some seller credit as they're negotiating to buy the property, or after they have actually ratified the contract, they're in a mutual agreement to purchase the contract and they go through inspection. When certain things come about during the inspection, then you have another opportunity to negotiate for seller credit. And what seller credit, all that means is that in addition to the purchase price, the seller is going to give you some money. Instead of bringing the price of the home down, give you some money to offset your closing costs. And that's going to be helpful. Some people, they want to bring the purchase price down in order to buy the house. But if you think about it, if the mortgage payment is going to be working out for you based on what the purchase price is, you don't necessarily want to reduce the purchase price, because what you're then doing is reducing the equity of your home as you're kickstarting to buy that house. What you really want to think about doing is actually negotiating seller credit, which is keeping the price static, but then asking for the seller to give you some money to help pay for certain things like, let's say, appraisal fees or taxes or title fees, or maybe even use it to buy down points. So that's going to be a great opportunity for you to use is seller credit. So the second most useful hack for buying a home is to consider points or lender credit. I know points, it's got a bad rep for it because you have to spend money to get a certain type of rate. But all rates for most home buyers, there is actually a par rate. If your credit score is really low, then you're going to have to pay points in order to obtain even a normal rate. But for most home buyers that I come across with decent credit, there is a par rate, and then you have the option to pay points to get the lower rate, right? And what is 1 point? 1 point is basically 1% of the loan amount. So if it's a $100,000 loan, then 1 point or 1% is $1,000. So you would be paying $1,000 to bring your rate down a certain percentage. So if it's 6%, this is being hypothetical, it's not exact, but if it's 6% and you pay 1 point, maybe it would bring it down to 5.75. And if you pay 2 points or 2%, it might bring it down to 5.5. Right? But on the flip side, let's say you're a little bit cash strapped. You want to buy a home, the mortgage payment works, the purchase price is fine, but you're a little cash strapped for the closing cost. You have saved enough money for the down payment, but you didn't have enough saved for the closing cost. Well, you can go higher in rate, and what it is basically you could think of it as reverse points. Or in the lending industry, it's called lender credit. And what that is you're just pre-buying the credit, the amount of money by going higher in rate. And so the lender will offer you, let's say, $2,000, $3,000 to use to offset your closing cost, right? And you'll see that as you go through your rate quote options and you're shopping around for a mortgage rate, you'll see some quotes coming in and you'll say, oh, well, this lender has provided $5,000 in lender credit. They must be the better lender. Well, it depends, right? Because you got to shop rate to rate, apples to apples, and then see what is being offered to you. Is it the same amount of lender credit? Because, sometimes I would see, and, we're competing with rate shoppers, and we'll get a quote, they'll send us a loan estimate. Hey, can you match this? And we'll look at it. And, the rate is, let's say 6.5%, and they're providing $2,000 in lender credit. And we'll try to match it by saying, hey, we can do the same 6.5, but our lender credit is a little more. Sometimes it's not, and then we'll be honest with them. But on the flip side, we might be the very first brokerage or mortgage lender that they're rate shopping with, and we'll provide them a rate sheet, right? We'll provide them a loan estimate to say, hey, these are the rates available to you. They'll take that thinking that's definitive, and they're going to show it to another broker or lender and say, hey, can you match this or beat this? And what'll typically happen is they're going to be asking you, like, are you rate sensitive, or are you strapped on cash? What do you want, right? And depending, might say, well, I can't do 6.5, but I can do 6.75 and give you like $5,000 back. And if you're cash strapped and you need cash in order to pay for your closing costs, that might incentivize you to lean on them. But I think a lot of people, what they've missed is that, well, that's not comparing apples to apples. You got to compare rate to rate and see what that pricing is. Meaning, is the lender credit the same, or is the points the same? And vice versa. If you want the absolute lowest rate, and you're willing to pay up to 2 points, well, you got to be upfront with people, with the mortgage brokers or loan originators, and tell them, like, well, I'm willing to pay down to 2 points. What can you do? And so they'll provide you, here's your 2 points option. And let's say it's 6.25. And then you go down to the next broker or loan originator and you'll say, okay, I'm willing to pay 2 points. What's the best thing you can do? I think the home buyers are scared, is what I'm coming across, and they don't want to divulge too much information because they feel like they're going to get taken advantage of, which I get, right? Because there are some really slimy, terrible people in this industry, which is one of my biggest gripes about this industry. But there are also great ones that are trying hard to do their best to present to you the best possible option for you. And so, my encouragement, as for hack number 2, which is either points or lender credit, is to let them know what is your most concerned thing. You can't do both, right? If you're paying points, you can't get lender credit. So I'm going to just break that myth to you. You can get seller credit and then pay points, but you can't get lender credit and pay points. That's going to be, otherwise, I mean, some loan originators may say you can, but what they'll do is they'll just fudge numbers around to make it seem like you're paying points and lender credit. But I'm just going to tell you up front, that's not possible. All right. So now hack number 3 that I think is going to be most useful is having a checklist when you're looking to buy a home. When you're looking for homes, I know it's like the most straightforward and simplest thing, a checklist. But a checklist is so useful. When we bought our first home 5+ years ago, we didn't have a checklist, and we didn't know any better to go through a checklist. So we didn't know what kind of home we wanted. So unfortunately, we took our realtor, all around our county, showing us homes, and we looked at almost 26 homes to find the home that we love, that we are living in right now. And so what I recommend for you is go through a checklist of what you should be looking for. What is your must-haves versus your nice-to-haves? And so we have in our guide, you can download it for free in the links description below. It just needs your name and email, but you can download it for free, and it has a checklist in there that's going to be really useful to you. Okay, I think it's on page 9 or 10 or something. So take a look at that, and I hope that's going to help you at least isolate and be very focused on what type of home you want. It doesn't mean you're going to block out everything, but you should start pretty narrow to see, is that what you really, really want? And see if there's a lot of homes based on your criteria. And then slowly start expanding that if you can't find it. If you can, that's great. But if you can't, then what's your must-haves and non-negotiables versus what's your nice-to-haves, right? And then what you absolutely don't want. And that way you can have a very kind of like a strategic approach when you're trying to find the home to buy. All right, so useful tip or useful hack number 4 for home buyers that I think everybody should have is you should be looking for incentives. Especially if you are a first-time home buyer, there's so many incentives out there for you, in terms of if you let the loan officer know, then there's already a federal incentive that's built into the mortgage products for conventional loans and maybe some other products out there. And so you can let them know, and then they'll be able to tell you these are some of the advantages. On top of that, if you're upfront with them about your income, your gross annual income that you are earning, certain counties, you might qualify for things like Home Possible programs that's out there, which can provide you some advantages on certain loan programs. And then lastly is certain states and counties also provide first-time home buyer incentives, right? Depending on the income qualifications, as well as probably the property or property types that's maybe participating in those programs. So just take advantage of those and ask the loan officer if there's any incentives for first-time homebuyers if you're a first-time homebuyer, and then if you're not, based on your income, what incentives are there for you. So that is tip number 4. Now, tip number 5 is the tip that I don't see very often that homebuyers are doing, and that it could really save you hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars. And what that is shopping for title fees. I know it's a lot of shopping around, right? You got to shop for and look for your home, and then you got to shop for the mortgage broker or lender that's going to be working with you, and then you got to add to it another title fees on top of insurance and stuff like that. It's a lot of work to buy a home, but it could potentially save you hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars if you shop for title fees, and you have the option to shop for them. You can ask for references from your lender or your realtor, or you can just look around locally to see what title companies are out there, and that they're going to be able to provide you some fees, and just let them know, I'm shopping for some quotes on title fees, and would you be open to providing to you? And they will. And that, I've seen hundreds of dollars being saved, and that's direct money out of your pocket when you go into closing. So with that, I hope this was helpful. Again, link in the description below for a free guide with a checklist if you haven't downloaded it already. And then with that, hope you have a great day.